I want to talk about attachment theory
Oh.
because this is what I am the most interested in. I was introduced to this from a friend over the summer,
Mhm.
and I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Like, I can look back completely at relationships that probably shouldn't have ended and was just kind of dumb and just a classic, like, that was miscommunication, would have been so easy. And I read this and I'm like, oh my God, this is completely what happened. It is
Oh,
so wild. So I'm an anxious,
okay.
obviously attracted to avoidance,
Yeah.
clearly. And I want to be secure. So I want to talk about everything. I want us to go into what each attachment theory means. And then also how, as I'm single, I can become the like secure attachment type.
Yeah, great. Okay, let's dive in. So, for those of who are listening who are new to attachment theory, the theory is that basically by the age of around 2 years old, we develop an attachment system which will pretty much determine how we relate romantically as adults. And there's three main styles. So there's secure, avoidant, and anxious. Secure makes up about 50% of the population. These are people who are not afraid of intimacy. They're also not codependent. They're able to communicate their boundaries and their needs. And when there's like a fight or an argument, they're able to actually move through it with an even keel sort of an attitude, and not turn everything into a catastrophe. And then the next group is avoidance. So those who have an avoidant attachment style actually subconsciously suppress their attachment system. So it's not that they can't be in relationships or that they don't say that they want to be in relationships. The thing is, what happens when someone gets a bit too close, they will actually do things to squelch intimacy. And so they will do what's called deactivating strategies. And this might look like if you have an avoidant attachment style, and maybe you go on a romantic weekend away with someone, and then immediately coming back, you just like need a lot of space and you disappear for a week. Or you date someone and everything's great in the first 3 months. And then after around 3 month mark, you start noticing all the imperfections. You're like, not the one. Or they may idolize an ex, the one that got away, or think that there's this perfect unicorn that they just haven't met yet. And these are all ways that they avoid intimacy because their fundamental fear is that they will have their freedom and autonomy taken away. So intimacy makes them feel, oh my God, I'm getting suffocated. And
Yeah.
then anxious, which
Mm.
I used to be anxious attached. I'm now what's called an earn secure. Anxiously attached have a fundamental fear that they will be abandoned or rejected at any time. Now, our researchers show that this often came from inconsistent caregiving. It doesn't mean that if you have an anxious attachment style, you had bad parents or bad intention. It just means that they may have misread cues. So sometimes you got your needs met, sometimes you didn't. And what happens as a young baby, it creates a very dysregulated nervous system because you never know. It's almost like a matter of life or death. So you have a very sensitive kind of nervous system, and you can get triggered when you're not getting your needs met or there's a threat to the connection because you're like, oh my gosh, this is survival. And what happens is when an anxiously attached gets triggered, so maybe you send a text and you don't hear back for 4 hours, they will do whatever they can to reestablish connection and make sure that the relationship is safe, or they might engage in what's called protest behavior. So this might mean, oh, so you took 4 hours to text me back? Screw you. I'll take 4 days, see how you like it. Or you might like someone so much that you're like, okay, I'm just going to date these 3 other people to take the edge off. Or you'll reject someone before they have a chance to reject you. And yes, like you mentioned, avoidants are drawn to anxious and anxious are drawn to avoidant. They both reconfirm each other's world view.